Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Everywhere you go, your manners are with you, and they leave their mark. They help you feel sure of yourself, too, and they make an impression on people.
Demonstrators wreaked havoc in Washington, D.C. and destroyed storefront windows.
It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation.
Make political commitments to curb population growth.
We didn't simulate this. We didn't practice.
What the hell do they let the reporters in there for?
MK Ultra.
8 million adults are affected by it.
Don't try it.
There will be no outcome that leaves Saddam Hussein in power.
A brand new group called ISIL.
We're speeding up training of ISIL forces.
The one person who wasn't random was the security guard.
America was founded as a constitutional republic.
Kick the incumbents out. Send citizens to Washington.
I will totally obliterate the deep state. We will obliterate the deep state.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Badlanders family, thank you very much for joining us. As always, I'm Zach Payne. Joining me tonight in Bradstead is the one and only Chris Paul. Chris, how are you tonight?
The horrors persist, Zach, but so do I.
It's never ending. It's never ending. I was thinking today about, obviously about your programming, but how so much of what is happening right now is a replay of everything that we've already gone through. And it's like every single story that seems to pop up, it's not news. It's just confirmation of everything that we already knew, which is glorious in one respect. But I mean, I keep having to remind myself that there's a lot of people out there who are just late, Johnny come lately, right? Late to the party. We live in a very insular and special kind of group of people, right? I mean, people who have been paying attention for a long time. But I mean, there are literally millions and millions and millions of Americans out there who are just learning this stuff for the first time. And it's absolutely insane. I got to believe.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that. I think you're exactly right. And that there's some good being done with the way the media operates and the kind of pattern of the comms in the repetition cycle, because it's undeniable that there are a lot of people who have not observed what we've observed or analyzed what we've analyzed. They're totally disconnected from that. But I wonder if they wouldn't be better served by actually just getting the truth.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Undoubtedly.
So, yeah, that's the part I can never like totally embrace.
Yeah. No, I don't think you're wrong in any way. I mean, I do believe in radical transparency. I think that it would be best. I think that the world would be far better served if all of this stuff had been confirmed and had come out previously and people had been listening, if they hadn't been brainwashed. But, you know, I mean, from my perspective, it is what it is. And I feel like, you know, if we only had more control, but I mean, that's kind of the way of the world, right? If we could direct the flow of information and ensure that everybody was getting the truth at the moment that it occurred, then, you know, the world would be a far different place. But I mean, you know, I also believe in predestination. You know, I mean, I have a faith in the order of things, and I just have to allow it to like water off a duck's back, I suppose.
I am 100% with you on that. But at the same time, I also just want to reinforce the idea that people should be telling each other the truth.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
like we have to demand it at least of ourselves.
Yes.
And then the people who pretend to lead us, they have to do it too. You know, otherwise we don't get out of this pattern.
No, I agree with you. Absolutely. All right. Listen, just want to say thank you very much to everybody who is out there. If you haven't yet, it would really help out if you hit the like button. I did also want to give a big shout out to our friend Brad, because he is still traveling. And this past weekend, we had the world premiere at GART of his brand new documentary, Codex 9/11. And the world premiere for the rest of the world is going to be this upcoming Sunday. Let me actually pull up the page. So if you guys were not there, if you didn't do the virtual guard thing, and you want to be there to watch it live with the rest of the world, then I would encourage you to head on over to this website right here. So this is the Codex 9/11 page that we've set up on the Badlands Media website. And right now you can watch the trailer for Codex 9/11. You can also take note of the premiere time, which is this Sunday, August 24th at 6 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to, idiot proof it, you can even throw your email in there and hit submit, and you'll actually get a notification when the actual film when truly comes out. So immediately following the premiere of Codex 9/11, Brad is also going to appear on The Narrative with BB. So they'll go into a sort of deeper breakdown of the themes, and I would imagine, comparing and contrasting to what we're seeing today and all of the revelations of truth. So, Chris, I wanted to ask your opinion on air. I mean, what did you think about Codex 9/11?
Man, I thought it was awesome. Like, I thought there was going to be some stuff that I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
It was all stuff I didn't know.
Really?
Oh gosh, man. I mean, I had seen the gelatin thing. I had thought about the passports. Of course, all of that stuff has to be in the film. But the way that Brad went through the architecture, I mean, there's just so many levels to what he presented. It was like just the biggest chain of red pills I've ever seen.
And it's probably the easiest red pill for an average person to swallow, because 9/11 was such a seminal moment. The collective PTSD that was forced down our throats and has just been a constant reminder of that event as we move through our days. The recognition of the oncoming security state, and every time something changes, you immediately go back to that moment, remembering, that's when it really shifted. And if you guys are out there and you're on the fence about 9/11, I can't imagine there's that many of you, but every now and then I'm sure that there's somebody out there who has just recently discovered us, or they've just started on their journey to discovering the truth. But most importantly, I think each and every one of you has like somebody in your family. Maybe you got a wife or a husband who doesn't watch these shows or listen to these podcasts with. Maybe they think you're crazy because you've said something like, the government or Israel did 9/11. But either way, this is the kind of documentary that you can show to a person like that, and it's unimpeachable. Okay. The style, the structure, the sauce, everything that Brad did to bring all of these disparate threads together to form a new story about what actually happened on 9/11. I think it's going to blow your minds, you guys. I am one of those people who did know that stuff in that documentary. I think that the only thing that I wasn't clear on was the operation that Brad talked about at the beginning. And I won't say that out loud because I want you guys to see it as it appears. But this has been a big subject for me as well. And I'm one of those people who has, lost family, lost friends because they refuse to talk to me about this stuff. I mean, I don't know if I've told you the story before, but 2 years ago on 9/11, I was doing a sort of retrospective of what occurred on that day. And I was shocked to see someone pop into the chat and say, "I can't believe you're talking about 9/11 like this. I was there. I waded through blood and bone and downtown." They didn't say that part, but that was the gist. Okay. That was the message that they wanted to send. And I was like, I don't believe that you're a real person. I think
you're probably right.
Yeah. I was like, there is no way that you've listened to my show before and you have the opinion that you do about this event. That simply is not possible. Never seen that person ever again. So I think it probably was some type of an intelligence operative or an AI, obviously, popping into the chat just to say something, sow some doubt. But I just want to drive this home for everybody here. This is a not to miss event. This is something that you guys must see. And I'm sure that a lot of people have many things that they're committed to. You listen to a lot of shows, you got families, you've got jobs. But this is one of those things that you owe it to yourself to see. And I believe every single one of you is going to agree with me when you get to that point. So definitely check it out. Definitely watch the narrative with Brad and BB afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is gripping. It's like, I think 2.5 hours long, and you just want to see what you're going to find out next.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that about the person who says that they were like there,
Yeah.
you know, as if somehow every person who was close to the situation
Right.
knows the truth about what happened.
Right.
You know, people, I just had some random bot pop up on my Telegram chat to let me know that I was the most ignorant person in the world about Venezuela. Okay. But her proof was that she lives there. And it really is like they tell us on the TV.
Mhm.
And that stuff has just never made sense to me. I lived in California for 18 and a half years. And there's not a person I knew out there who knew what was going on in California. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
so I don't trust that like I was there nonsense, because that's just perspective. Like, okay, maybe you're right, but also maybe you're totally wrong, because we don't always get things right, even when we are very close to this situation. I also wanted to say you were right on point with the thing about the husbands or wives. When we were at Mount Rushmore, someone approached me, like washing my hands in the bathroom, and was like, "Hey, Chris." And I was like, okay. And he was a guy that had attended GART, but hadn't gone around and introduced himself.
Okay.
So I didn't meet him. And when we walked out of the restroom, he introduced me to his wife. And he was like, she was a 9/11 normie that this movie has just turned around completely.
Wow.
And the last thing I'll say is, you know, there is a big audience for this on the quote unquote left, you know, the Bernie bros, for instance. There are a lot of people. Back when I was a liberal, I watched Loose Change. I watched Zeitgeist, right? I think that was one of the main
Zeitgeist,
documentaries.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, liberals blame George W. Bush for 9/11, and
Right.
they believe something else was going on. Like that belief is already baked in for them.
Mhm.
And then one of the cool things Brad did was not make the film about Trump. So they can watch it, and there's nothing in there that's going to like upset them politically and make them shut down what he's communicating.
100%. Then that I was actually going to, I do know about Traverse City and I do know about Gaylord. Yes, 100%. So that was something that I thought was very important as well. It's accessible because it doesn't dive into modern politics, because it doesn't go down that area of Trump. You know, I mean, I think that Brad said that it was difficult for him not to include Donald Trump, because I perceive Donald Trump as a part of the 9/11 story. And certainly in terms, I hope, of ultimately what is revealed in terms of 9/11 truth, because we're currently in his second administration. Some might say third. And I think a lot of people are hoping that we're going to get more details about 9/11. And there's even more to tell. Just for everybody, so you know, there is another aspect to 9/11 that Brad and I are going to be going over next Wednesday when he returns. And I won't spoil it for you, but it's another path that intertwines with the information Brad put out there. And it's just another layer. But I mean, it's all the same players. And I think that he made the right decision in not putting President Trump in there. And I hope that nobody's upset that he didn't mention Trump. But because there are people out there who are suffering from terminal TDS, and I've known plenty of those people who, you know, believe that George W. Bush and only George W. Bush committed 9/11. I think that for the people who are unable to accept truth simply because it is tangential to President Trump, this is going to be something that they'll be able to dive into, and perhaps it will take them down the roads that they need to go down so that they can ultimately get to what is actually true.
Yeah, I mean, that would be awfully nice. I hope that is what happens. That's what I expect to happen. I mean, I think that this thing is going to be viral. I think it's going to get shared out by people in the administration. Yeah. I mean, the way that our kind of information stream works at this point is like, yes, we are pushed off to the fringes and completely ignored publicly, but the stuff that starts in the truth community ends up getting pushed into the mainstream. And we know that there are people who see this stuff. You know, if any of them take the time to watch this film, they're going to want to share it out there.
Yeah. So I think, you know, I've already started coming up with ideas on how we can try to make that happen. And, you know, I mean, anybody who I know that is even remotely connected to the Trump administration, I already know that I'm going to be sending it to them as soon as it comes out. And, you know, it's funny that you mention, you know, that these people might see things that we do. And I'm not going to claim credit for this one, but this ties into stuff that I wanted to talk about tonight. But earlier today, well, yesterday it came out that Ed Martin had been seen prowling around Letitia James's brownstone in Brooklyn. And this morning he posts this image of himself in his trench coat. And when I showed this earlier, I was like, look at him in that Columbo trench coat out there pounding the pavement with that shoe leather. And then right before I came on the show, I saw that he had shared this meme of him, basically of Columbo. He says, I've got some questions. And I just thought that was pretty cool. Now, he does follow me with his personal account, but to be fair, he follows like close to 1 million people with that personal account.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, who knows? But I saw reports that he's Columbo's like second nephew or something like that. He's like his great uncle. There was something that, I mean, I was just looking quickly before the show after you told me about it. And yeah, apparently he's said he's got some relation to Columbo. But I don't know if he means Peter Falk or if he like the fictional character was his granddad.
Oh my God. I love it. That is absolutely insane. Either way, I think that the proximity makes it even more entertaining. And oh man, you know, I mean, I got a good feeling about that. We've got a new criminal referral I wanted to talk to you about as well. But before we do that, we should probably give a big shout out to the sponsors of tonight's program. And first of all, the stalwart of the election integrity movement, Mike Lindell. You guys, a very large retail store just canceled a huge order of MyPillows, and that leaves us with a ton of extras. So you know what? Their loss is your gain, because MyPillow is offering the classic collection for wholesale prices. That means only $19.98 for a standard MyPillow. But you see, it gets even better. For a limited time, they're going to offer their entire classic collection at wholesale prices. So you can get a queen size MyPillow for just $24.98. You can upgrade to king size for just $29.98. You can get the body pillow for $39.98 and the multi-use MyPillows for only $12.98. So head on over to mypillow.com, use the promo code Badlands, or you can call them if you don't want to jump on the computer, 1-800-795-5154 to take advantage of that wholesale pricing. And you're going to get $100 in free digital gifts when you order $75 or more from Mike Lindell at mypillow.com using code Badlands. That's right. Get the standard MyPillow for only $19.98. Head on over to mypillow.com or call them at 800-795-5154. Use the promo code Badlands to get the standard MyPillow for only $19.98. And then also, I need to say a big shout out to our friends over here at Viper Bats. Step up to the plate with Viper Bats. These are American-made, precision-crafted wood bats for athletes of all ages. Viper bats are made for players by players using hand-split maple, birch, and ash billets to ensure unmatched durability and big league quality. They're founded by a father and a son with a deep love for baseball, so every Viper bat reflects their player-driven passion and expertise. With tons of color options and a 45-day warranty on most bats, you can swing with confidence. Viper bats are crafted for players, built to last, and made to love the game. You can swing the best wood bats you're ever going to hold, so swing Viper bats. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/bats and use the promo code Badlands15 for 15% off non-blemished bats. Brand new. That's badlandsmedia.tv/bats and use the promo code Badlands15.
That's a cool sponsor.
That is a cool sponsor. I had only learned about them recently, but it's pretty awesome. I wonder if they were like Badlanders before they came on as a sponsor.
Yeah, that seems like one of the brands that might be not corporate feeling at all.
No.
Can I drag you back to something about 9/11?
I would love it.
I mentioned this to you and Brad when we were at dinner Saturday night after watching the film. I have a conspiracy theory.
Ooh.
And there might be people in the audience who have gone down this trail before. And if you have, by all means, please let us know. But I look at, so it's $2.3 trillion.
2.3 trillion. Yep.
That were on, or that were lost from
The
how do you say
Pentagon.
it? The Pentagon's balance sheet, right?
Yep.
The accounting firm for the DoD. Now, I'm not sure that they did all the accounting and worked specifically on this. I can't back that part up yet. But the accounting firm was Arthur Andersen, the same firm that was taken down 2.5 months later in the Enron scandal.
Yes, and taken down by Andrew Weissman, we might add, who is a big-time deep state player.
Yeah, and what was his name? Ken. Gosh, the name of the Enron guy.
Oh, Ken. Was it Ken Lay?
That's it. Yeah. He was, if I'm not mistaken, friends with the Bushes.
Yes, he was. Yep. So yes, Arthur Andersen co-audited the U.S. Department of Defense alongside the Defense Contract Audit Agency, which I believe is a federal agency. And yes, so I don't know if they lost anybody on 9/11, but I also wasn't aware that they were part of the auditing team that was looking into it. I mean, I know that the people from the Defense Contract Auditing Agency and Pentagon employees who were part of the accounting department, essentially the best and brightest of the Pentagon's bookworm nerds, so that if anybody was going to find that $2.3 trillion that was unaccounted for suspiciously on September 10th, it was going to be them. I mean, what are the chances, Chris? What are the chances that they're going to host a press conference admitting that they can't find $2.3 trillion and then admit to the United States of America that they're going to do everything in their power to figure out where it went, and then they put them into the very room of the Pentagon that is hit by a plane, maybe a missile? Likely, I would say it's a missile. But just taking all of them out. I mean, well, to be fair, they didn't take all of them out. There were a couple that were left, and they only spoke about it once or twice after that. I don't think many people wanted to come forward or be involved in the research after that.
Gosh, man, what a morass this story is. But you think about a trial, the magnitude of the Enron scandal, that's going to tie up a lot of records for the accounting firm. Oh. And if that was a cover-up and takedown operation, they ran it to success.
So here's the thing. The case that Andrew Weissman made against Enron was faulty at best. And that's why, nobody really went down for Enron. Now, Enron went out of business because they had essentially been, litigated out of the market. And Arthur Andersen went down because they were accused of co-signing on bad audits for them. It would not surprise me if Arthur Andersen, during this process of, the 2.3 trillion missing, maybe they were going to speak up. Maybe they were going to say something to clear their names or to say that, hey, we performed these audits to the best of our ability, given the information that we had. And if there's $2.3 trillion that was missing, we had no idea because, they obviously them going out of business and being forced to focus exclusively on the Enron issue. That would definitely stop people from talking or coming forward to say anything that would impeach the people who had taken that $2.3 trillion. So I think it might be onto something.
Yeah, I just can't. The timing lines up so well, and the need to cover up the accounting problems at the Pentagon, as you mentioned, they just happen to be right there. Yeah. I guess if you're going to make sure that the operation is totally cleaned up, that's a great way to do it. And mentioning Andrew Weissman, John Brennan and James Clapper were featured in Brad's film as well. And so we've got all these people involved in Russiagate, these deep state intelligence community operators who were intimately involved in that situation back then. And now there's all these narratives being retold about what it is that they've done in more recent times. So once people accept, oh yeah, parts of our government really are this bad, I think maybe it's a little easier at that point to look back to 9/11 with a more critical eye.
You know, one thing that is pretty interesting about both the Pentagon and the World Trade Center is that in the months leading up to the World Trade Center 9/11 event, there had been construction going on in the building. There was supposedly upgrades, fireproofing, stuff like that. And mysteriously, the exact same ring of the Pentagon that was hit by the missile. I want to be very clear. I believe it was a missile. I was being facetious when I mentioned a plane earlier, but sarcasm doesn't always translate. Anyways, there was also a brand new fireproofing that had been done at the Pentagon just prior to that as well. There was a structural upgrade that had been done that was supposed to make it impenetrable. And so, yeah, I always come back to that as well as another piece of this. I mean, it just seems, wow, that is very, very convenient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we're not wiring the building to explode. We're making it less explodable.
Yeah. Sure. Also, Cat Arm wants to know what I think about the woman who was on Tucker that talked about Oklahoma City. She's right on. I mean, everything that she and Tucker talked about, and the Jesse Trentadue story. She knows her stuff. If I'm not mistaken, she had written a book or she worked directly with the Trentadue family. And they are still to this day trying to get justice for their brother. Do you know the story about Jesse Trentadue?
I don't. We're about to start an episode of Baseless Conspiracies right now.
We basically are. Yeah. So in short, there was, immediately in the aftermath of the Oklahoma City bombing, there was John Doe 1 and John Doe 2. And there was a man who was in federal custody, Trentadue, and he was questioned by federal authorities, but instead of just questioning him because they thought maybe he might be John Doe number 2, they beat him to death. And because he matched the description of a person that they said that they were looking for. Well, the government basically tried to cover up his death, and the family never really bought it. And so he's become part of this mythos of what really happened in Oklahoma City. So if you guys have a chance to watch that episode of that woman's interview, it's good. It's real good. Or you could just watch the Baseless Conspiracies episodes that we did on Oklahoma City. Those are good too, I would have to say.
I'm going to have to do that. I haven't seen that episode.
Okay.
And that's one of those events that was like prior to me paying this sort of attention. When the TV said, oh, it's Timothy McVeigh, and then they put him to death and all that. You're like, okay, well, I guess it's Timothy McVeigh. I guess they proved it beyond a shadow of a doubt in a court of law.
You know why Oklahoma City stuck in my craw so much is because, I mean, it was one of the first acts of terror like that was so widely publicized. I mean, it was kind of the advent of the 24-hour news cycle in the early 90s. And so there was just coverage nonstop. And as soon as it happened, I mean, everybody was talking about it. Very similar to 9/11 in that way, because you had the benefit of all of these firsthand witness accounts, and also a lot of confused government representatives. So there was this live story that was unfolding, and they had the sketches of John Doe 1 and 2, and John Doe number 2, I'll be damned if he did not look just like a neighbor of mine, like spitting image. And I remember looking at my mom and saying, he looks just like Isaac. Like he was an older brother of a kid that I went to school with. And I just like, I forever that was burned into my mind. And then very shortly after that, they just disappeared him. Like, oops, I guess there is no John Doe number 2. Don't know why we would say that there was. And that was it.
Gosh, man. I mean, I wonder how this happened sometimes. And we talked a little bit about it at GART. I mean, is it just that the media was so centrally controlled and always telling the same story, and we didn't have the ability to communicate with one another and share what we knew. We didn't have the access to the internet the way we do now to do the research and the rest of it to find out just how messed up all this stuff is. But I can imagine 20 years ago, they would have gotten away with all of this stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And again, they did get away with all that stuff. And now it's like, not only are they not getting away with stuff anymore, now they are being chased down for the things they did back then.
Yeah. No, I think you're right on. So we go back to an event like the Kennedy assassination, and immediately in the wake of that, all of the information that was being released was centralized, right, through the government. And so like Walter Cronkite or whomever else was on the news at that time, they're basically getting their reports from this central source. The government immediately descended upon Dealey Plaza, and they like apprehended every single person. Like they wanted all the footage that anybody might have had. And, obviously nobody had cameras at the time. I mean, so, maybe one or two people that might have been out there filming, but every single person was brought into a police interrogation room. They were questioned. If they had a story that was different from the official story, well, there's a couple of different things you can do. You can either tell them over and over again that they're wrong, that they must have misseen something. Ma'am, you're acting a little hysterical. I wouldn't want your husband to hospitalize you. Or if they don't want to play ball, then they can just mysteriously die themselves shortly after the event takes place. So it was much, much easier to control the news at that time. And also the apparatus of the media was so much smaller. It was just like they had three stations, ABC, NBC, and CBS. And you better believe that the CIA would have their people implanted in each of those bureaus. And so they can then control the narrative that way. Now, expand that out. We've got, at the time of the Oklahoma City bombing, you had Headline News and CNN. I think that was it for the 24-hour news cycle. But you still had all of these local affiliates of those three different stations that I mentioned, and they're all over the country. So everybody who's in Oklahoma shows up with a camera, and they start immediately talking to all of the firsthand witnesses who are right there. They're filming, the bomb squad rolls up, and they tell everybody there's another bomb about to go off. We've got to get it. Okay, well, now it's immortalized on film. So people can have that film confiscated by the government, but are they going to be able to go around and confiscate everybody's VHS tapes as they were recording that at home? Are they going to be able to take the handwritten notes from the housewives who were sitting there watching? No, it's just not possible. So the only thing that they could do is then come back with the official narrative and then reinforce that narrative over and over and over again until people just forget what they heard on that day. Or, plenty of people didn't come home until after 6 p.m., at which point they're already reinforcing that official narrative and telling people that Timothy McVeigh is a lone wolf, right-wing nutter who has connections to Waco and connections to Ruby Ridge and connections to the Aryan nations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then along comes the 24-hour social media news cycle. And as you said, they're now being chased down. I love it.
Yeah, me too. The one of the ways that they kind of cement the stories in the public consciousness is by producing other forms of content that suggest the official story is true. So they'll make movies and TV miniseries. They'll film documentaries that are very biased perspective. And they have all these different ways to convince people that they deeply know a story that they actually don't know at all. And I think that too is getting less effective, although it's still pretty effective. You can just see them revising even our recent past when they put these films out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Can you think of an example of a recent film where they've attempted to do that?
Well, Burning Bright and I did 13 Hours. I think it's called the
Benghazi.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We did that on Badlands Story Hour about, 6 or 8 weeks ago. And that was interesting because there were certain perspectives that now I think you can watch that film and kind of be woken up by it if you watch it very carefully. But for the most part, it is making the CIA look good by making the soldiers who protected them look good. But the CIA was the cause of all the attacks in the first place.
Yeah.
You know, and that part is just always left out. So it just, I mean, it reinforces. I don't know if that's the best example.
No, I think it's a good example. It's definitely a good example because I mean, I feel the same. And I know Michael Bay is one of those CIA connected film producers and directors. I mean, undoubtedly. And we know, all of us know, the history of the Central Intelligence Agency and the military industrial complex and the hand they've had in helping to create movies like this. You know, I mean, if a producer of any stripe wants access to information that will allow them to write a script that will be compelling, and then they want some sort of legitimacy, they're going to have to play ball. I mean, they're going to have to present that narrative that they're asked to present.
Yeah. And I go back often to people like Arnon Milchan, who are massive Hollywood producers. And I mean, it is widely believed, I don't know it for sure, but that he is a Mossad asset.
Oh, he is.
And
100%
producing some of the biggest films in the world. Here's another great example. Argo. He produced Argo, and Argo was a total historical revision.
Okay, so the reason we know that Arnon Milchan is an Israeli spy is because right here, let me show you. It was widely believed prior to this, but he reinforced it himself in this interview with CNN in 2013, where he said, I helped the Israeli spy agency. So if I'm not mistaken, Arnon Milchan actually helped to smuggle out nuclear secrets from the United States to help Israel develop their nuclear program. So he worked for the now defunct spy unit Bureau of Scientific Relations. And to be fair, he actually said this on an Israeli television program called Fact 14, but he also detailed it in his book, where he talked openly about plenty of different types of espionage that he was involved with. He smuggled out parts and plans for nuclear projects in the 1980s. He's a prolific filmmaker. Fight Club, Pretty Woman, LA Confidential. Let me see what else. The King of Comedy, Once Upon a Time in America.
Yeah.
He
did Noah. That Noah was an interesting film too. Darren Aronofsky. He did multiple Aronofsky films. He's made some amazing movies.
Yeah.
I always wonder, I even a country like Israel, there are still good people operating in that country.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Good twin, evil twin everywhere. There is that globalist faction everywhere, and Israel might be the beating heart of that globalist faction and their most important proxy state. We can take that for granted. And still with that, there are anti-globalists and anti-Zionists there. I mean, the anti-Zionist movement in Judaism is like not small.
No.
Right. And from their perspective, they argue that Zionism is actually an inversion of Judaism.
Yes.
So they're like, the Zionists are actually not Jewish according to them. So I always wonder if maybe, could be trying to wake Americans up to some things. I don't know.
I think that's totally possible. Are you familiar with Robert Sepahar? He's an anthropologist.
Yes, I've watched a number of his videos. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a couple of his books, and I followed him on YouTube for a long time. Follow him on X as well. But Robert Sepahar is great, and he actually is one of those people who's Jewish, anti-Zionist, and he did an incredible piece about the modern sort of leftist, secular Jewish Zionist movement. And he takes it back to something called Sabbateanism. Are you familiar with Sabbateanism?
I've heard the term, but not enough to know anything about it.
So hang on. I have to look it up because I didn't prepare for this. So Shabbat Zevi was a 17th century Jewish messianic prophet. Okay. And he taught an inversion of Judaism, which was, I mean, very akin to like the sort of teachings of like modern day Satanism. Like it was all about like hedonism and like orgies and stuffing yourself with food and, you know, the earthly pleasures, so to speak. And so Robert Seppeher makes the argument that this like modern day secular Judaism is really the modern day expression of Sabbateanism. And it's a great piece. So I would highly recommend watching it. I think that you'd probably resonate with it.
I will check that out. I think that case is pretty well made.
Yeah.
And I think it's even more fundamental than that. If your moral code just says follow the law, as long as you are following the law in some way, or you can argue that you're following the spirit, if not the letter, or the letter, if not the spirit, then whatever you do is okay. And what we have is a faction of Judaism right now, or people who call themselves Jewish, like Harvey Weinstein, for instance, who can, you know, do everything he's done with women and then also open a film school for children in Hollywood and receive massive awards and everybody loves him. Like that wouldn't fly in a different sort of society with a different sort of morality. So when the law, following the law is your only thing, then of course you're going to be engaged in earthly pleasures. There's no reason why you shouldn't be. The idea of sin is almost pointless. You make some sacrifices and you're right back on track. So I don't know, man.
No,
that's not a, that's a road you can go pretty far down.
It's a hell of a rabbit hole. That's for sure. Well, you know, in thinking, people have been mentioning Ukraine in the chat, and this is actually something that I did want to bring up to talk with you about. This is coming out of Sputnik, and you can see that the story is a high-level child trafficking ring is currently stealing kids from Ukraine and bringing them to the UK. And they're stealing these kids for sex work and organ harvesting, and the Ukrainian elite is getting filthy rich from it, and they say USAID is involved. This kind of gets back into what we were talking about off air, and I think what we opened the show with. For a lot of people, this isn't news, right? People in our movement, this is exactly what we believed has been going on in Ukraine for a really long time. And if you know anything about traditional conflict zones, where NGOs and foreign agencies come in and start operating, I think about the Kosovo and Serbia back then when they were at war. This was a huge problem there. There were vast numbers of people who were killed and taken to have their organs harvested. And also the children and women were sold into sex slavery, and just the most horrible things happened to them. And of course, I know somebody, you know, if you guys are not on board with the Sovereign Alliance, then you might scoff at the use of Sputnik as a source. But I remind you about Vladimir Putin's public comments about the evils of the West and the sort of blood-sucking vampires that the global elites have turned into. You know, how they've basically been feeding on the flesh of humanity, and that one of his goals is to not only preserve the Russian lifestyle, Russian heritage, Russian history, but also to take down that globalist slave system that has been engaging in this type of stuff. You know, I mean, anytime you've got a war, you're going to have the most evil people you can possibly imagine that are going to be profiting from this. And in, you know, for a long time, sex slavery, child sex trafficking has been, I think, kind of just, you know, one of their main things that they get into. You know, I truly have believed for the longest time that the size of child sex trafficking on the global stage, it's an economy of scale that would rival many different nations. And people who are into this sort of stuff are likely the people who have money to spend on anything that they want. And this is the kind of thing, you know, there's, you know, getting back to Sabbateanism, you know, you can only you can only push yourself so far before it takes something more and more extreme to sort of ring that bell for you in your brain, right? If that's the kind of person you are, as a former drug addict, well, as an addict in recovery, but lots of people start off with just drinking in high school or smoking pot in high school, and then you end up using something heavier. And then, once people kind of go up that ladder of dopamine releasing substances in their brain, they need more and more and more. And from all of my research about various elite circles around the world, that sort of Sabbatian philosophy is exactly what they engage in. I mean, it's all about excess. It's all about the earthly delights. It's all about receiving pleasure from the debasement of others, because, they get off on people being hurt, people being harmed. And I would imagine nobody comes out of the womb like that, Chris. I mean, I have to believe that every single human being is pure when they're born. And in order for them to become that type of person, they themselves must be going through some pretty heavy trauma and conditioning to sort of make those personality traits come out. Maybe I have too much faith in humanity. I mean, I think that there's definitely going to be people who are born with inherent and inbred narcissistic traits, psychopathic traits. But I don't even think that everybody who is like diagnosed as a narcissist or a psychopath has to become that type of person. I think that it might take a tremendous amount of will and just self-awareness, but they don't have to act on those things. I actually remember maybe about a year ago, I saw an interview with a woman who was a narcissistic sociopath. She had been diagnosed, and she was not engaging in behavior that you would commonly attribute to people in that group. But she was highly successful in other areas. Like, she became a CEO. And I'm sure you're aware that the narcissists and psychopaths tend to gravitate towards positions like that. Because in order to run a company, you've got to be able to, without any sort of reserve, make decisions that could potentially destroy the lives of a number of people while saving the pocketbooks of other people. So those are perfect candidates for those positions. Politics as well. Obviously, I often wonder, do we have a problem with commoditized suffering and child sex trafficking because the psychopaths become politicians? Or do those people get corrupted once they get into those positions and then they develop those traits? I'm not sure.
I think that that's really interesting and well said. And I think that we can tie actually the behavioral, I don't know what you could call it, the progression to these extreme behaviors. I think you can tie that to the same thing that you're talking about with the CEOs. Another thing about sociopaths and psychopaths is that they gravitate toward city centers, hubs of activity that they can then manipulate and attempt to dominate. Yeah. That's their thing. And they end up operating against one another. So if you're trying to outcompete the rest of them, at some point you're going to run into somebody who has all the same skills you have and all the same experience and whatever it is, right? All the same competencies. Everything that would make someone choose you or the other guy on merit alone is totally equal. So how do you get chosen past that point? This is something I talk a lot about with my Party of False Decorum stuff. But after that point, it's corruption and compromise. So the overlap then with people going to those extreme sexual lengths, if it's not just their greed and they're not just taking the money, they're probably also indulging all of their vices and the darker side of them. And then that continues the more you want to advance, because the people who are the most advanced with the most to lose need to be able to not only trust that you're not going to expose them, but control everything they do so that they are this worthwhile tool. And then to tie it back to the Ukraine thing, man, I noticed I think in 2022 or 2021, I was it must have been 2022 after the Ukraine thing started. I was doing some research and some background on Ukraine. And there was a time where Jill Biden went over to visit Volodymyr Zelensky's wife. And the event that they did was a children's event. They were like reading children's books to children, but it was part of UN migration. And I thought, UN migration, we hear about human trafficking in Ukraine. And I look back, UN migration was there for 25 years.
Oh, wow.
And so when you're talking about a system of human trafficking, of course it's run from the top. Of course it's in league with their global governance organizations. And, I look at something like UN migration now. Well, what can that mean? They're either trafficking children, trafficking women, or trafficking laborers, slaves.
No, absolutely. 100%. And if we dive into this this tweet thread here, so there is an ex-SBU Colonel Vasily Prozorov. He tells Sputnik that a secret multi-level organization in Ukraine, which is led by their security service, the SBU, selects kids and then forges their documents. They get sent to the UK under false pretenses like evacuation or education, and then essentially they're lost into the system. They continue by saying an undercover probe by Urban Scoop names a company, Chemonics. They are funded by USAID. Their staff is run on a shadow op with top-level UK officials, which includes a man by the name of Tom Matlock. He's ex-MI6, and his wife, Kate English, with the Foreign Office, who coordinated child sales directly from the UK embassy in Ukraine. And for actual transport, the scheme uses British private military contractor Cadian and Albanian gangs. And obviously, this is a highly profitable venture. From an SBU report from December of 2023, they show 1,047 kids as unknown, 9,000 or more evacuated abroad, many of them of Russian heritage. These would be the kids from the Donbass, which, immediately following the color revolution, they had a referendum to leave Ukraine, the whole eastern portion there, Donbass, Luhansk, and I can never remember the third one. But if you can come up with it, we can.
I think Zaporozhye is one of them. I think there's actually 4.
Oh, okay.
Hold on a second. 4 regions of the Donbass. So you got Donetsk, Lugansk.
There we go, Donetsk.
Zaporozhye, I believe. And what is the other one? Hold on. I'm almost to a map. Oh, I think that they're still trying to go for Kharkiv.
Oh, Kharkiv.
I think maybe that's what I was thinking of.
Okay, that could be it. I've definitely heard that in that conversation before. So this is the really insidious part, and I think we've hit on this before in conversations about this. But a source said you can only sell drugs once, but you can sell a child dozens of times a day. And once those children go through the sort of conditioning, the MK Ultra mind control programming, for lack of a better word, then they're completely in the system, and they have fractured their mind to a degree where they're essentially not present for the abuse. And, these people are sadists. There is, are you familiar with the Dutroux affair? Have we talked about the Dutroux affair before?
I don't know if we have.
Okay. So, Marc Dutroux is a famous Belgian serial killer.
Okay.
And
I've heard of him.
Yeah. So he was found guilty for the murder of all of these children. But the reason they focused on Dutroux and why it's only called the Dutroux affair is because it was actually a European child sex trafficking and torture ring, kind of like the most dangerous game, if you imagine, being played with children. So royals and people who are, hold on just a second. I'm trying to fix the formatting. There we go. So royals and people who, hang on. It's not doing what I want. But
StreamYard's scene feature is the worst thing ever.
It is. I wish that it had like little labels or something like that, because the pictures are just not necessarily doing it. but yes, it was essentially a European child sex trafficking and murdering, and Marc Dutroux was part of it. And there is at least one woman who survived. I've actually got her book back there. I can't remember her name. And she escaped. And several of the people that she knew that were part of the story, like, they've been identified. They've, subsequently been murdered. But what's unique, or perhaps not unique, but common with what we see here in America, is that many of the people who are involved are high-level politicians, bureaucrats, and members of, their deep state, for lack of a better term. People who have power, pretty similar to what we see being revealed in the United Kingdom. I mean, that's not even a new story. The child rape gangs of the Pakistanis and stuff. I mean, that's been going on for the longest time. But, it's only kind of been widely distributed in recent years. And it just goes to show you that it's the same game no matter where you are. And they may be central hubs, but they're all spokes on the same wheel. And these people engage in the most deplorable and disgusting behavior, and they ruin children, and they murder people, and they steal their organs, and everything that you could possibly imagine happens. And they continue here. What happens to the kids? They end up with influential pedophiles, pornographers, and black transplantologists. So back alley organ transplanters. They can sell a child a dozen times a day. There's more money in a child trafficking than in drugs. And, they also have, they get more products out of a child that way, because they can essentially destroy them with the child sex trafficking. And if something happens and they kill that child, or the child is killed for sport, or the child goes insane and they can no longer control them, well, then they can just hand them over to the surgeons, and they'll go ahead and take their organs. Who was it? Was it Rockefeller, who had like 8 hearts by the time he died just a couple of years ago? Was it David Rockefeller?
Gosh, man, I haven't heard that. I don't know.
Okay, hold on. Let me figure out which Rockefeller it was. I'm pretty sure.
Kind of horrifying.
Yes, absolutely. One of the most sadistic things I've ever heard. Yes, it was David Rockefeller, because he died in March 20th of 2017. So he had literally like 7 or 8 heart transplants by the time he finally passed away. And most people who need a heart transplant, they don't get a heart transplant, right? There's not a ton of hearts that are going to be available that are specifically for you. But being from one of the richest families in the world, and also the family that arguably is responsible for the modern medical system as it exists, David Rockefeller obviously had access to more hearts. Also part of the same network of people that we're talking about right now. If you've got an open access and unlimited access to bodies that you can test for viability, then you've got an unlimited supply of organs and hearts that you can go ahead and take anytime that you want. And that always disturbed me, that there was never an attempt to explain how it was that he kept coming across fresh hearts that worked for him. Because, I mean, statistically speaking, it's virtually impossible for that to happen unless you're breeding children specifically for that purpose, which is pretty crazy.
It is crazy. And I mean, everything you just laid out is disgusting, obviously. I mean, the good thing about this Ukraine narrative that has developed over the last 3.5 years is what it has done for people who look back and try to understand the history of that region and what it actually represents, what sorts of things have been going on there. It's making us question what we were told about World War II, because there's Ukrainian Nazis. So we have a legitimate Nazi narrative going on in front of us. We have now finally the mainstreaming of the child trafficking that has probably been going on there for decades. And so we have these story packages that are able to relay all of these relevant messages and understandings within them. And at some point, we kind of, you reach a tipping point and you start heading in the other direction with the exposure, where no matter what they do to try to cover things up, it just gets worse for them because everything, because like the veil has been lifted, once you see it, you can't unsee it and you just keep going. I think we're reaching, I think we've reached that point on Ukraine. I think we're reaching it on Israel. I think that we're going to get the same sort of thing on China, Taiwan in the near future, if we have to go that far. But man, I'm glad that these stories are being retold and that people are hearing them so that they can begin to develop that kind of big picture mindset. Oh, our world is different than what the television told us it was.
Absolutely. So continuing here, they are the source naming additional names. An ex-SBU officer by the name of Sergei Borisov. He was jailed in 2020 for kidnapping, but then mysteriously he was allowed to go free in 2021, and he was recruited by top SBU officers to supervise the children's stream. I don't know if that's an awkward translation, but I would imagine that that's simply the flow of children. And the ex-SBU officer who is telling the story, and this is, he's being interviewed by Ukraine Leaks. That's the same organization that brought out a ton of information about the Biden crime family and the part they played in the criminal underground of Ukraine. But aided by Irina Savchuk and Yanina Verich, they're with the Kiev police, and then also Marina Fishchuk, she's with Ukrainian Child Services. And look at this. This ties back into what you mentioned earlier. Zelensky's wife, Elena, and the Safe Ukrainian Foundation are also involved in child trafficking. Babies sold under the guise of surrogacy, with a black market sending them to Western countries where the procedure is banned. The main supplier is the infamous Biotech.com company, and they are never charged. Journalists actually took this to UK authorities, but the NCA and MI5 did nothing. National Crime Agency. Okay. One person who brought this to the police was asked by police if she had mental health issues for reporting an MI6 officer's name. And a British MP, Andrew Bridgen, was falsely accused of pedophile after going public about real child predators.
Wow.
That's how they do it, that projection to ensure that people don't take the story seriously. And while the West accused Russia of taking children, President Putin is said to have saved 4,000 Ukrainian children that were taken by mercs and undercover ops, returning them safely to their parents. And of course, the pedophile epidemic in the UK is real, says MP Bridgen. He says there's no appetite to investigate child abuse, whether that's the Muslim rape gangs or trafficking children in from foreign countries for pedophiles. So what's most horrifying is that this did not begin with the fighting in 2022. Journalists say the child trafficking scheme was going on for the last 20 years. I think that that's not difficult to believe, but the conflict obviously escalates it and it gives them cover. Now, for anybody out there who is disturbed by the fact that we're talking about this, I understand this is not a casual conversation for most people. But I bring it up for a very, very particular reason. Getting back to what we were saying about the truth that we've been aware of being revealed and confirmed to the world. I find it very interesting that this story is coming out right now on the heels of President Trump and President Putin's recent meeting in Alaska, and then President Trump meeting with the European delegation and with Volodymyr Zelensky. And also, when he spoke with Ursula von der Leyen, he put it out there on Truth Social. Yeah. We've got to do something about these missing kids. I don't think that's a coincidence at all.
I don't think so either. The only thing I would add to that is that, the same people running these human trafficking operations and engaging in the despicable acts we're talking about are the people who control most of the people who could hold them accountable.
Yep.
They've got judges, they've got mayors, they've got governors, they've got attorneys, they've got legislators who will change laws on their behalf. You look at what's his name? I think it's Scott Wiener in California, the guy that's always making things easier on pedophiles.
Oh yeah, the gay dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now, from my perspective, President Trump dropping that in Ursula von der Leyen's lap. Well, first, he spoke with Putin. We know that I believe that Putin is not the kind of person who would engage in this behavior. I think that he sees it just in the same way that we do. Disgusting, abhorrent. These people must pay. We cannot allow it to happen. The children are sacred. This is not something that should exist in a civilized society. We also are pretty certain that because President Trump and President Putin are having private conversations, considering Melania's letter in regards to this stuff, and obviously her work with child trafficking to stop it, I would imagine this was probably a conversation that was had between Putin and President Trump. And then for President Trump to drop that in the lap of, one of the top tier of European globalist society, I think that was a message basically telling her, we need to do something about this because I know exactly what's happening. And if I am correct on this, then Ursula von der Leyen was probably shitting her pants. This would also be one of those times that the knowledge of this type of behavior taking place, this is the kind of thing that if President Trump were to use it in the way that I'm suggesting, that would be enough to end the war. That would be enough, because otherwise, guess what? We're going to expose you openly for this, and we're going to accuse you in the public square.
Yeah, and just to bring that to good twin, evil twin, when you think about what the war really is, it's the sovereign individuals being led by sovereign leaders in sovereign nations against the kind of one world global order. And if you think of the war that way, I think even in that sense, you're right that Trump could end the war that way, right? At some point, you can see that their goal long-term is to have the collective consciousness support what they're doing. They need the people to approve. And if you go to the ideas about Satanism and whatnot, they need the people's consent. They need the people to fail to resist the things that they're doing. And because the people have failed to resist, well, they're not doing anything wrong. Look at that. There's consent. These people didn't try to stop us. And at that point, I mean, all bets are off, but that's the society we're in right now.
It truly is. It truly is. I'm going to go through a couple of these rants over here just to say what's up. We got Filter Dog over there on Pilled. Unfortunately, it says geopolitics with Ghost. Hopefully you guys figured out that this is not geopolitics with Ghost, but good to see you, Filter Dog. He says, just one more thing. I think that's in regards to Ursula. Also, big shout out to Mia Bean, who says, love you both. Thank you for all you do. Thank you so much. JK Nerdy says, I'm so glad to hear Codex is palatable for the TDS sufferers. I'm planning to get my sweet wife to watch it with me. Good stuff. I hope that she enjoys it. And I would truthfully love to hear what her reaction is after you do that, JK. That would be awesome. And then Brad CGZ also out there with a $20 rant, as well as Mia Bean also was a $20 rant. JK Nerdy was a $5 rant. Brad, thank you so much for the $20. He says, ironically, the 6/28/01 Bill Cooper broadcast, where he destroys 9/11 before it even happens, was broadcast about the McVeigh execution. Cooper had met McVeigh before the Oklahoma City bombing and was adamant that he was set up. Yeah, I too believe that Timothy McVeigh was set up 100%. That is fascinating. I definitely did not know that because I've never heard the entire broadcast. And then Crystal Anon says, love you both, Zach and Chris. God bless you. God bless you as well. I appreciate it. Maga Theo, I'm seeing your posts, buddy. So I mean, I guess if your post was removed, then I wouldn't see it. But I am seeing you say test, and then it keeps removing my texts. So I don't know what that's about, bro. Interesting. I wonder if Rumble has like, I don't know, maybe like a delay from like how long you have to wait before you post another comment or something like that. I don't know.
I've never run into that myself, but I suppose it's possible. I sent you over that link about Paramount Studios choosing to focus on theatrical releases. And at the same time, Paramount and Skydance, David Ellison is moving their content production in our direction.
Mm.
I don't know that they're going to be like you and me at the end of this, but they're at least going as far as like the kind of edgy uniparty right will allow them to go. And so when they're going away from the streaming model, which has been the major focus of regime propaganda, media, and entertainment for the last 10 years, 5 to 10 years. I don't know when the exact date it started was. To shift away from that model with different content, it's like you basically have the run of the movie theaters at that point, and you can put in this different sort of content and hype these movies. People are going to want to go see them. People do still want to see movies that just aren't woke and aren't like driving the progressive communist agenda.
Yep.
If they start knocking out blockbusters by producing that kind of material, we could have a resurgence of movie going, which I think would be a great thing. Maybe it'll make that AMC stock explode. But man, I think that the refocusing on theatrical, we were told that it was never coming back after 2020. This was going to be our new normal. We entertained ourselves at home. I hope that we get out of that.
I hope we get out of it too. I mean, I have a lot of fond memories going to the movies with my mom and my dad and my sister when I was a kid. You know, I mean, like on holidays when we had the day off, you know, I mean, like we'd wake up on Christmas, we'd go to church, we'd open up presents, then we'd come home, have dinner with the family, and then we'd go see a movie later on. And, you know, that was just so awesome. And if I got a new jacket, I'd wear the jacket or new shoes or something like that. And just thinking it was so cool. But, you know, I mean, I am a big fan of quality entertainment. You know, I mean, I love the craft of storytelling. And, you know, I mean, I grew up with incredible stories. And, you know, even to this day, I still seek out things that are entertaining. But, you know, I enjoy it when they do slip in messaging that is eye-opening, that is red-pilling, right? You know, but I absolutely abhor that sort of woke commie programming that's taken off in the last couple of years. And, you know, there's been a couple of different things and you hit on them. You know, obviously, when they shut down all the business, everybody wanted to stay home and they were like, oh, now we have to really lean into streaming. But at the same time, they leaned into that woke commie garbage. And it's from my perspective, that's the number one reason why entertainment companies are failing, because it doesn't even matter if it's free to watch at home and it sucks. You're not going to spend 2 hours wasting your time on something like that. You know, I would so much rather listen to a 2-hour podcast or read a book, you know, or go mow the lawn, anything other than watching something that's destroying a brand or a property that I loved as a kid. And so it's pretty clear to everyone, and now even to the studios themselves, they're not exactly admitting it outright. I don't know what Skydance has said publicly or if they've made any public comments, but you know, one of the properties that they acquired with the Paramount deal is Star Trek, and Star Trek has been gutted in the last 10 years. They've absolutely destroyed it. And, you know, I've known a lot of people. I mean, Trekkies are just as devoted as Star Wars fans, right? And, you know, a lot of times people say, like, you know, you're either or, but I mean, I loved both. I grew up with both of them. And, you know, I would love it if they would admit that they screwed themselves and the people who did that are no longer working there anymore. And, you know, we want to get back to the basics, you know, of telling good stories in a quality fashion, entertaining, not designed to preach to you, not designed to brainwash you. And I think we've probably got a long way to go before that happens. But I'm really glad that those two things converged at the same time, that they were forced to start producing stuff on these niche platforms because everybody wanted to be Netflix, basically. And at the same time, they leaned into horrible storytelling, and all of them have essentially been unsuccessful. They've all been hemorrhaging money for the longest time, whether it's Paramount or Peacock or Disney Plus or whatever it might be. And And I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing because the people that I hate in the entertainment industry are the people who are responsible for the slow and ultimate demise of the entertainment industry. And I think that it will be a good thing if some of those streaming services go out of business or they just, stop producing content and they put people out on the streets again. Because if you have the opportunity to enjoy something like that in the theater, like, the gasps or the screeching or the cries or the screams of people that are seeing something that either excites them or scares them. I just think that there is something to be said for that.
Yeah. And I think that they are going that direction. I don't know if it'll be the sort of thing that they'll make a public statement as a company that they have shifted politically and that they want to put out a certain kind of content. I don't expect them to come out and be Angel Studios or anything.
Right.
But I still have some friends from Hollywood who are very successful in the business. And some of them have worked with Skydance now for years and have said for years that they want that kind of edgy content that is like really pushing the limit in the other direction. And so that, as far as I'm concerned, is hugely positive. And then you got the David Ellison, the settlement. What was that, 4 weeks ago with Donald Trump? And then you've got Larry Ellison, who used to support Donald Trump, who has all the TikTok data that, we don't have to go into this, but I think TikTok is going to end up moving under Trump Media and Technology Group. I think that that's what the ultimate outcome of that's going to be.
That would be pretty sweet. That would definitely be pretty sweet. So Larry Ellison is not a supporter of Trump anymore. Because I know that he was involved in that like data center deal that was supposed to go down.
Yeah, I assume that he still is, but I don't know. Then it could also be the kind of thing where it's like Peter Thiel was a supporter of Trump, and Peter Thiel is still a supporter of Trump, but was he ever really?
Right. He's still pushing money in a bunch of different directions, I would imagine.
Yeah, they try to use Donald Trump and use MAGA as a vehicle for their agenda. All they have to do is say they've changed their mind and they're going in a new direction.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I do want to bring up something that's kind of a non sequitur because I did not believe that it was real when I saw it. And we're not going to watch this entire video. We don't even need to watch any of it. But as a concept, I wanted to show this to you because I could not believe that it was real. So this woman, this is the modern economy, okay? This is the modern economy. A day in the life of a girl making $50,000 a week pre-chewing food for toothless men. Now, when I saw this, I said, no effing way. Like, this cannot be real, but it is real. And this is how she makes her money. I don't think she takes video of herself doing it for these guys, but she just like pre-chews food, spits it in a bag, writes a handwritten note for these guys, and then sends it off to them. And I don't know how, $50,000 a week, bro. I don't know how many customers she has, but that's a lot of money. I have to be honest. I was tempted to make like an AI avatar and then just spit food into a bag and see if people would pay for it.
God, man, that is sickening.
It is sickening. It's so like horrible.
Throw it in a blender, retards.
I was also trying to just search the deepest recesses of my mind because clearly there must be some type of a sexual component to this. Because otherwise it's getting sent to you in the mail and it was in somebody's mouth 3 days ago. I don't know, maybe they're paying for overnight and they put a cooler pad on it or something like that. But I cannot in my wildest dreams imagine a world where someone would consider that to be a viable product. But I don't know. Is it some humiliation ritual type thing? Who would ever? But $50,000 a week, that's insane.
It's good money if you can get it. Did you ever do you watch Black Mirror? Did you see the most recent season of Black Mirror?
I haven't finished it. I think I got to the Paul Giamatti one.
I think it's the first episode where the man's wife dies and they bring her back to life, and she basically lives on a subscription because
yes,
she's chipped and she has to be connected to the machine to be able to get around, and she starts doing ads and all that. And so they increase the price of their service. And if you want to get the premium level, you're going to need a whole lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And so the guy starts doing those videos where he, like, people will pay him to do extreme things to himself.
Yep.
Like, here's $500 if you pull your tooth out.
Yep.
And he does stuff like that. That seems like the same sort of thing, but that's maybe that's only shaming the people who are actually paying because they want to be shamed.
It seems like it. It's like the inversion of the Black Mirror episode, because I'm sure that girl is laughing all the way to the bank. But you know what that reminded me of was like Kick. Do you know who Johnny Somali is?
No.
Okay, Johnny Somali is this. He's like Somali, like genetically Somali, but I think he's an American citizen. I'm pretty sure he's an American citizen. Like, his parents were immigrants. They worked real hard, and he's a total degenerate. And he's been kicked off of every streaming platform, including Kick, which is like, you know, I think pretty universally. I mean, people can do a lot of degenerate stuff on there, like what you described from the Black Mirror episode, but he's even been kicked off of Kick. And so he ended up having to go to some other D+ tier streaming service that just allowed for him to do stuff. But he kind of gained notoriety because he went to Japan streaming himself on the subway, and he just starts screaming out Hiroshima, Nagasaki, but with like a Japanese sort of accent, and basically gets into fights with people. And he got kicked out of Japan without any sort of criminal repercussions. And he ended up in Korea. He also went to Israel, and he tried to get fresh with an Israeli female IDF soldier. And he got his ass kicked by the male IDF, and they carried him off and hogtied him and threw him out of the country. So in Korea, just if anybody's thinking about it, just so you know, Korea is one of those countries where they don't play. All right. So like, if you break the law in Korea, their legal system is designed to ensure that you will be found guilty. And of course, it's highly technological. And even more than that, he streamed every single crime that he committed. So he is looking at maybe a decade in prison right now. And he's essentially had his passport confiscated, and he's stuck there. But, you know, he's does these extreme things because he has an audience that is paying for him to do those extreme things. And that includes, you know, getting drunk and exposing himself in public or saying things that are offensive to people. One of the things he is being charged with is the creation of deep fakes and the dissemination of deep fakes, because I guess that he had a deep fake on his computer screen that was of some female Korean streamer, and it was shown on his stream. And rather than end the stream and delete it and, you know, get rid of the evidence, he just kept going. And the Korean prosecutors, they basically, once they realized that they wanted to screw this guy, they just watched all of his streams. And every single time he committed a crime that they could charge him with, they did. And of course, he doesn't speak Korean. All right. He doesn't have any money. They won't allow him to basically make a living. He can't work. He has to stay in the country, cannot leave. And I believe he just recently pled guilty. But even in the midst of the trial, they were discovering additional crimes that they could charge him with. So, yeah, that episode of Black Mirror I thought was pretty relevant to today. Also, in relation to that episode, Volkswagen has just come out with their new, I believe, 2026 vehicles. And at least for the electric vehicles, they are governed so that if you want max horsepower, you have to pay the monthly subscription to get it.
I saw that and thought immediately of Black Mirror. That's like a perfect parallel. It's incredible to hear that influencing went so wrong. I mean, I was around so many of those people in Hollywood, just even normal influencers like Instagram models. There's the public facing side, and then the backside of it is that they're also high priced escorts.
That's right. Yeah. going to places like Dubai and Oman. What is it? Is it the
Silicon Valley a lot as well?
Silicon Valley. I mean, did you see when John and I talked about the Dubai porta potty?
No.
Okay, well, I will spare you the details, but don't Google it because it will definitely twist your lid. I'll tell you off air because I've already told the audience and it's very disturbing, but it has to do with those Instagram models.
Oh, wow.
All right. So yeah, long story short, learn a trade. Because AI is not going to outplumb or out electrician you.
Yeah.
At least not yet.
Wow. Yeah, that's at least we end on a positive note.
Oh my gosh. Oh, speaking of our robotic overlords, did you see that Elon announced that by 2026 he's going to send an all Optimus battalion to Mars to set up the Mars base?
Sure he is.
Oh my gosh. I'm just here for the memes because there's undoubtedly going to be a lot of entertaining stuff that happens there. And allegedly the Tesla Roadster is supposed to come out this month too.
Well, that would be cool.
I mean, that's not real, Chris. I mean, that was like supposed to it was like 2018, I think was when it was supposed to come out. So
and didn't they shoot one into space?
They did.
Elon needs to shoot a rocket over the ice wall, and maybe Mars lies beyond that.
There we go. I've also seen footage, I think it's of Greenland, that looks suspiciously similar to Mars as well. Okay. All right. Well, we're basically at the end of the show. So let me go through these last two rants here. We've got one from EC was here. He says, the greatest trick Big Mike's junk ever played was convincing the world that he didn't exist. And then EC, great seeing you this weekend, buddy. And Brad says, ready for Not Your Moderated Cinema Movie Studios to open.
There we go.
If you ever want to get back into entertainment, traditional entertainment, there you go. We just need to find investors. We are actively seeking non-woke
now.
As of this moment. Yeah. Oh gosh. All right. And let me see if I want to check and make sure that we didn't miss anything over here. I don't think we missed anything on YouTube, but we do have people on YouTube. So I want to say hello over there. If you guys wouldn't mind hitting that like button, maybe sharing it out, we can get people siphoned over. I think about YouTube as a funnel to bring them from the normie podcasting universe and then radicalize them over on Rumble, bring them on over. And then, of course, also on our Pilled platform. You guys, I don't know if the people on Pilled, have you noticed that they did some upgrades on the Pilled viewer? There's a new, it's like a control bar that pops up when you put your mouse over the screen. So you can turn the volume on and off. You can change the quality of the stream. You can also do like a pop-out player, it looks like, or make it full screen, but pretty cool stuff. They're doing a lot of good stuff over there. All right, Chris, what do you got coming up, man?
Well, I'm actually taking a bit of a hiatus from my personal show to focus on writing a book that I've been working on.
Awesome.
And so I'm kind of in that mode till the end of the year. I'll do live streams, but I think it'll probably be sporadic, maybe some interviews here and there. But I'm still going to obviously be on Badlands. Sure. But I'm just trying to take a step back from that and redirect my content. Man, sometimes I just get sick of talking about stuff.
Sure.
It's happening constantly. So, and I really want to complete this project because it's like the culmination of 5 years of work. And I'm going to be, I think I'm going to be really happy by the time it's done.
Well, I look forward to reading it. Are you going to be part of the Burning Bright Publishing?
I guess the future is it's wide open. Yeah.
All right. Well, I can't wait to read it. You guys, I'm going to set up the raid to send y'all on over to DPH. So there you go. Chris, it was wonderful having you here tonight. I love doing shows with you, dude.
Yeah, man. So, it's always a blast hanging with you and getting to pick your conspiracy encyclopedia brain.
Awesome. Well, everybody out there, thank you very much. We're sending you over to DPH. So hit that like button before you leave. It is very important. And I'll be live tomorrow at 5 p.m. on my channel, Red Pill News. So if I don't see you there, then I might see you here on Badlands at 4 p.m. for Taking It Back with Frank and Adel. So Take it easy, guys. Peace.